decay and sometimes sulfur is like a...
Yeah, I've heard sulfur a lot.
Yeah.
I've heard that a lot.
Anyway.
They just smell bad.
Yeah.
They don't wear deodorant. So after a while, the big reveal was at one point, weeks later, they witnessed the crone. So we're going to shorten the Catskills crone to the crone.
Okay.
It was a ghost with a rail-thin body and eyes that shined in the darkness. Because all evil things have eyes that shine in the darkness.
Sure, yeah.
Of course.
Which is so typical. Not to belittle it, but I know. I think it's real, actually, because we're going to get into why. It's going to get really weird in a second here, guys.
Wait, so they started seeing an apparition appear?
This couple did, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. That's all we know. They smelled like crap in their house, and then suddenly they saw a weird, really frail lady with glowing eyes, and that's all we know. And then they gave the artifact to the Newkirks. Yeah. And they found him somehow and gave it to him. It was like, you deal with this weirdness. And they're like, bring it on. We can deal with hard
They're
stuff.
so, like, ballsy, man. They got balls of solid steel. They just,
Maybe
like, take
they
on
have
all
literally
these...
faced every fear, so they're not afraid anymore.
Maybe. I don't know if they, like, give themselves some sort of spiritual protection or whatever, but they take on all this, like, stuff that people are like, this is possessed and you need to take it. And they're like, all right, we'll put it in the back of the room.
Well, I think Dana is a witch. And not in the, that word is used, and mostly people associate that with something negative. But like she's a witch that is able to probably
I saw on the show she was doing like the tarot cards
conjure and control demons.
Yeah, exactly. So they're not scared of it. You know what I mean? Which I would be terrified. So they did a bunch of awesome stuff to test out the crone. I just love these guys. They live broadcasted an attempt to communicate with the crone, and they used the Estes method. Have you guys heard of the? I know Matt has. Have you heard of the Estes method?
No, I haven't.
So that turned up on the Helia show, is where I know it from.
Yeah.
Tell me what it is.
I want to quote them just because like it's their thing, and I want to make sure I get it right. But on January 21st, 2016, Carl Pfeiffer, along with his fellow resident investigators, Connor Randall, and I'm quoting from weekandweird.com, and Michelle Tate were spitballing an idea they've been kicking around since 2011. What if they isolated the noise from an SB7 spirit box, a device that forces sweeping radio signals into chunks of randomized noise, which many ghost hunters believe can be manipulated by spirits to send messages, and fed it into a person, making them the receiver? So what they do is they cover your eyes, they put headphones on, and you're getting like channels of radio really fast, and the person goes into a trance state and then starts saying the words that come to them make sense. It's a really, obviously, controversial, highly crazy.
So you know what a spirit box is, right? Where it's like it jumps around radio channels and it goes, you hear different like words and stuff.
So the thing is trying to communicate on whatever frequency it can.
Yeah, basically they use that, and it's like a sensory deprivation where they close off your eyes, and I think that's it, actually. It's just that you can't see anything.
Yeah, your senses are cut off.
Yeah, so all you're hearing is you're just concentrating on what you're hearing, basically.
Right, which is random radio stations and words.
Right. And
the idea constantly
is
changing the station, so like you never catch anything for real.
Yeah, and the idea is that any sort of spirit that you're trying to contact can use that spirit box to send messages via these random words that become not so random. Yeah.
Okay, so what happened?
So this was actually in the Stanley Hotel, which is interesting.
Oh, that's why they call it the Estes.
Yeah.
Because of Estes Park.
Yep.
Yeah.
So during this procedure, Dana was the one with the mask on, and she couldn't hear anything, and there was communication going on, and weird things were being said. That's not the most interesting part, because who knows? Like, you should be hearing a word and saying it, right? But they also 3D scanned it at the same time, which is super, super crazy.
They 3D scanned the statue.
Yeah. So this is happening at the same time.
Okay.
I'll get into the results of that, but so basically in her conversations with it, they realized there was two different entities attached to this object that were kind of battling each other. One was more aggressive, one was more like, hey man, I don't know what's going on, so quit being so aggressive. And then, which they got from their talks. But they 3D scanned it, and it's so weird. There's a shot, and you go on their website. I signed up to be like a member, and I like their Patreon account, and I like give them money every month just because like I support my heroes. There's a video where they show the 3D printing shows like a hand emerging from its neck, and its fingers coming out.
What?
During this time when they were talking to it. Yeah, it really crazy. Like really,
through like infrared. Is that what we're talking about?
You know, like 3D modeling you see like in Maya. Imagine basic 3D modeling was just the clay.
Okay.
it's the statue, and for some reason it's just like a hand coming out with
But
fingers.
it was picking up like a astral hand or a spectral hand coming
That's
through.
yeah, something like
Crazy.
that.
Wow.
And then they canceled it. This was a live broadcast, which is just amazing. They're amazing. They canceled it when they picked up a third entity who somehow jumped in and was started like talking shit to the aggressive other entity that was attached to the statue. And I was like, okay, that's getting
Wow.
deep. We got like 3 things going on.
So wait, what did it say? Because she was communicating with it. So what did it say?
I don't have like. It was a lot of like, I stop talking. I can hear you. But I don't. I listened to a bunch of it, but basically
So
the summary
this
was
entity
that
is passive aggressive. Is that what you're trying to say?
Don't worry about it. I'll do it.
I'm fine. I'm fine. Speaking of like the worst fear that a man can hear is when a woman says, "I'm fine." It's the worst.
It is. I can confirm that. Yeah. So there's also other stuff that I couldn't access yet because I'm not a premium member yet. But they have like a video of a car crashing that they're saying was associated with the demon, with the statue, which is super fascinating.
So did they ever come to the conclusion of why they're trapped in this idol, this statue, and what are they doing? Like what's their purpose?
Yeah, I don't know. So I need to listen to the entire video, but what I could summarize it was there's just 2 entities attached to it, and we don't know where they came from or why. But I think I should do more research on it. I wish I had answers for you. I just think it's awesome.
Yeah.
They also have video of this thing. They had an all-night like camera on it, and they have video of in the middle of the night just like things moving in front of it and like it moving things.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a real deal thing. You know, it's like Annabelle the
Crazy.
doll.
Cool.
Could be legit. It's like their number 1 artifact. It feels like.
Speaking of fear, I mean, I know I started off this podcast being kind of academic, but I none of that stuff I want to deal with. Like I remember walking into houses or locations where I could feel that things weren't right. Mm-hmm. Especially at one point when I was looking to buy a house, and you could walk into places and you'd be like, "Oh, nope."
Yeah.
I'm
mom's
like,
had that
I remember
experience.
saying to myself, "I don't want to see you. I can't talk to you. I can't help you. Just, I want to leave."
Yeah.
I don't want anything to do that. I don't want to see it.
My mom wouldn't let us rent a house when we were kids because she had a dream that there was entities upstairs and she couldn't get to my brother and I who were stuck upstairs. And my dad was like, all right, whatever, we won't rent that place. Come to find out years later, the principal of my school rented it and they left the house. And then years after that, at a dinner party, my parents talked to him and were like, why did you leave that house, by the way? Kind of like knowing, you know, like you experience weird stuff. And they were like, I hate to say this to anyone, but we experienced classic like poltergeist activity. Yeah, the whole 9 yards, doors closing, things touching you in the middle of the night, something on the end of your bed, like all this weird stuff. Really crazy. I come from a small town where like, and that house today seems nice now, and someone lives there, and we haven't heard anything. But that was shocking to hear like a principal of a school who's supposed to be really
your mom
respectable.
knew.
And my mom knew and brought it up. Yeah,
Wow.
it was crazy.
Wow.
I grew up in a haunted house, just so you know.
Stop.
Matt's been keeping this from us.
Yeah. I grew up in this house when I was a kid. I must have been... Shit, I don't know.
And where is this in Australia?
Oh, it was like a little mining town back in the 80s. Northern Queensland, Australia. And we were living in this house. My dad worked in the mines at the time. And... man, this house was, I don't know, I just had always a bad feeling about it. I never wanted to be in the house alone. And there was a bunch of like random shit that would happen during the house, but it all kind of culminated in this one part of my life over, a few months where I would be visited every night by an entity in my room.
And
Yeah. And I like came into contact, I feel like physical contact with this thing. It would come into my room at a certain time every night and would take me out of my bed, and it would I lived at my room was at the back end of this hallway. The other end of the hallway was my parents' room, and would drag me out of bed every night, and I could feel it kind of like getting sucked out of bed.
And sleep paralysis?
Not in a good way. No
is there a good
sleep
way of being
paralysis.
sucked out of bed? Okay, don't
Yes,
answer that.
Yeah, you walked into that one. Yeah, no, it wasn't sleep paralysis, but I do experience sleep paralysis quite a bit, and I have done since like my adult life, I guess.
So you'd wake up and this thing would be suddenly something would grab you.
Yeah, I remember being like, if I could just fall asleep, I could just wake up in the morning and none of this will happen, because I knew if I was awake at this time of night, and obviously when you're trying it, the more you try to like fall asleep, the harder it is to fall asleep. But I knew if I was asleep, it wouldn't bother me. But if I was awake at the time, at this certain time of night, it would come into my room and I could feel the presence in my room.
Probably 3 a.m.
Could have been, yeah.
Probably.
It was like late in the night, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what did it look like?
I never actually saw it. I remember a sort of a dark, not even a figure, just like a dark mass is all I remember.
Yeah,
And I must have been, I don't know, 5 or 6, something like that. I wasn't very, very old. But it dragged out of bed, and I distinctly remember it carrying me down the hallway, because I have this vivid memory of trying to reach the floor with my feet and just hovering above the floor.
That is so creepy.
Yeah. And then it would just kind of dump me in the doorway of my parents' room, and I would kind of like, I didn't never want to look around to see what it was. I was terrified. But it used to happen like night after night after night, and I remember telling my folks, and they're like, "You're just having a bad dream. Don't worry about it."
But why your parents' room? It's kind of interesting. It dragged you to safety.
Yeah, it could have been. I don't know.
That's
I remember
true.
being terrified
That's
about
true.
it. I don't remember ever being hurt by it or it attacking me. It was just like it was trying to get me out of that room.
I wonder if it was
So-
like kid energy that like
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it was just either it was like, hey, this is my room. Get the fuck out of here.
Maybe there was something else that was supposed to happen to you that they were
Ooh, maybe.
removing you from.
Yeah.
oh, like there was a second darker entity
There
that
was
was
a
going to
second
enter. And it
darker
was like, get
energy
out of here,
there.
man.
Could have been.
Get out of here.
I'm getting chills thinking about that right now. But there was other stuff that happened in
Maybe
the
it
house
was actually
as
your
well.
guides. Maybe it really wasn't a dark.
Well, it could have
force.
been. Well, when I had my reading last week with Debbie, she mentioned one of the things I don't think I ever mentioned on the show last week, but she mentioned that one of my current goals in this incarnation as me, as Matt, was something that I learnt as a child that I apparently had to face or go through, and that was part of my experience that I had to deal with in this lifetime.
Huh.
Apparently I got it out of the way early, and I'm all set now.
You crushed it.
I crushed it.
So
But
was it facing your fears?
well, yeah, I mean that's how I eventually got through it. So I remember there was other things that happened in the house. Like I would come into a room, and it was always when I was by myself in the house. I never wanted to be by myself in the house. But stuff used to happen, like I would walk into the living room where the TV was, and the TV would turn on all of a sudden, and I'd see crazy imagery. And I always remember it being something akin to seeing like a ultrasound or an X-ray, and it
That's
was
so
kind of a
freaky.
weird-looking picture on the screen. It would show me that,
Oh.
and it would be I didn't remember any sound or whatever, but I remember I'd just run out of the room again. And there was, a few other little things that would happen like that. But so, yeah, basically how I got this all to stop was I got through my fear because it happened so many times, time after time after time, night after night it would happen. And I got to the point where I was like, fuck this, I'm not dealing with this anymore. I was like, yeah, exhausted. So I...
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. So this was the 80s when Star Wars was like a huge thing. So
Still
I remember having this like toy lightsaber that was like a flashlight that you turn on. It was like a light up plastic
Nice.
sword.
Nice.
And it was like the only weapon I had at the time that I could think about as like
Yeah.
a 6-year-old or whatever. So I took this thing to bed and I hid it under the covers with me. I was like, all right, when this thing comes tonight, I'm going to mess it
I'm
up.
gonna use the
I'm gonna
Force.
Fuck shit up tonight. I'm going to use the Force and fuck this thing's world up. So sure enough, it came that night. And I remember, I don't even think I looked at it. I just started swinging this lightsaber left and right. And then I remember this feeling like, oh, everything's okay now.
It was like
It was just
Pennywise.
gone.
It was like Pennywise.
Yeah,
Once
it was
you
like I
faced
told
your fear
Pennywise
and you weren't scared of it, it had
to
no
go fuck
power.
itself. Yeah, basically I faced that fear and like it stopped coming at me. Like, and I've heard that before of poltergeist activity.